The National Bureau of Statistics says Nigerian inflation rate rose to 27.33% in October 2023 from 26.72% in the previous month. The Statistics Office says the October 2023 headline inflation rate shows an increase of 0.61 percentage points when compared to September 2023 headline inflation. Welcome to Business Point, where we extract the Nigerian economy and the government policies. I am Kike Lomo Okewi. Stay with us. We will be right back. The year-on-year basis headline inflation rate 6.24% higher compared to the rate recorded in October 2022, which was 21.0%. This shows that the headline inflation rate year-on-year basis increased in October 2023 when compared to same month in the preceding year, that is October 2022. According to the report, the food inflation rate in October quickened to 31.52% on year-on-year basis, which was 7.80% points higher compared to the rate recorded in October 2022, which is 23.72%. Inflation has remained high in Africa's largest economy, prompting the Apex Bank to hike interest rates to their highest level in nearly 2 decades. The Nigerian Bureau of Statistics attributed the rise in inflation rate for October 2023 to increase in price of bread and cereal, oil and fats, potatoes, yam and other tubers, fish, fruits, vegetables and milk, cheese and eggs. The statement affirmed that the rural inflation rate was 25.5% in October 2023 against the 20.57% recorded in October 2022. The analysis of the state further revealed that the inflation rate was highest in Kogi, River and Lagos State, recording 34.2%, 31.1% and 4% and 31.2%, while Jigawa, Borno and Sokoto states recorded the lowest rise in inflation rate of 20.0%, 6%, 23.3% and 24.4%. In July, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared a state of emergency on food security to tackle the increase in the food prices. He also directed that all matters pertaining to food and water availability and affordability as essential livelihood items be included within the purview of the national security. Let's take a short break now. When we return, we will be joining our guest and economic analyst, Destiny Wubu.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has in the second published a list of imported goods and services that will not be eligible for foreign exchange in the Nigerian foreign currency market. The list, which was originally 41, was updated to include 2 more items. Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 26.72% in September 2023, amid soaring food prices and harsh economic realities occasioned by the removal of fuel subsidy in May. In separate interviews carried out at Utako Market, Abuja, Nigerians have this to say with regards to the cost of food prices and ban lifted on 43 items.
Since the government removed fuel subsidy, honestly, price of commodities, they are going higher and higher and higher every day because of the removal of the fuel subsidy. So, assuming that he put something in place before removing the fuel subsidy, it could have been better. But now, nothing. The thing affected the prices of commodities in the market. Let them import food. Hence, our farmers cannot be able to go to the farm to go and farm as usual because of kidnappers and Boko Haram and bandits. It's necessary because they are necessary commodities. It's necessary. Palm oil, vegetable oil, rice, this is spaghetti, and other food items. It is necessary.
I've heard about the 43 items lifted. For rice and other edible items, I think it's okay because of we are not yet producing enough to feed the nation. So I think restricting ban on such items is actually the best thing that can happen to us.
The price of food, like when you go to the market today, you buy something. When you're going back tomorrow, just carry like double of the money you use in buying what you bought yesterday. Because of every day, the prices of food goes up. And people use this as an advantage. Even those that are cheap, those ones that are cheap, they will still add money again to increase the prices. So every day, the transportation is also something else.
Nigerians are of the opinion that for these 43 items and other commodities to be affordable, the cost of fuel has to be reviewed downwards in order for farmers and importers to be able to transport their items to their various destinations.
I was discussing with a friend that everything is still lie on fuel. Like they will still transport it wherever it's coming from. So they will still transport it. So since the price of fuel is still high, the price of foodstuff in the market will still be high.
Sandra Akpa, reporting for Global TV News.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Business Point on Global Television on Star Time Channel 276. With me via Zoom is an economic analyst, Destiny Uwobo, to discuss October inflation, the impact on Nigeria economy. Good afternoon, Destiny. Good afternoon, Destiny.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, and you? All right, let's dive right into it. The October inflation rate of 27.33% is alarming high. At least in the last decades, what does it mean to an average Nigerian citizen?
Yeah, basically, what it means for the average Nigerian is that Nigerians are now reallocating at least 70% of their income on food and transportation. Okay, it will not become immediately obvious because people will just survive. If we were spending between 26 and 30% of our income on transportation and food previously, in the last 6 months, because prices have quadrupled, then we'll be spending at least 70% of our income on food, transportation, and basic necessities. This will reduce the amount of money we can have for savings and investment in the future. So that's the immediate effect. A lot of people are just on survival mode, and then they will have less money to plan for the future, and then they'll have less money to set aside for investments for the future. That is the immediate impact on the average Nigerian.
Of this on businesses in Nigeria, as in the private business, particularly the small and medium scale enterprises.
Yes. Like I said, when prices go up, it has a lot of terrible effects on businesses. For the first time, the price of inputs has gone up. So the price of inputs into production has gone up. Price of flour, price of petrol, price of raw materials, basically. And that will affect directly to the prices of goods and services. So for the businessman, what is simply going to happen is that it's going to impact on their supply. An average businessman in Nigeria has a limited supply of goods and services at the point. So they are going to supply less than what they are used to supplying. And that will mean a fall in their revenue And if there is a fall in their revenue, it will impact on their profits. So the direct impact of it is cost of production, which will impact revenue, and then which will impact profits. So businessmen are going to have diminished profits in this year because the aggregate demand will fall, given the fact that people do not have a lot of resources to buy the quantum of goods and services they are used to buying. The average Nigerian does not have a lot of money to spend this period on necessities. And so what will happen is that total aggregate demand will fall down, business revenues will reduce, and their profit will also reduce. So those are short-term impacts on these price changes. Although it appears as if they are making a lot of money now because they are selling at high prices, the net effect on the economy is a total fall in GDP. So the growth rate of the economy will slow down this year because prices are high and expectations are not expected to go down a little. So what is going to happen is that people are buying so much buying a larger proportion of their income, they are spending it to buy goods and services, which is not even enough to their previous consumption patterns. Businesses will suffer as a result of low aggregate demand for goods and services, high cost of production, and impacted profits. So generally, profits will go down, especially for companies that sell services. Companies, necessity companies may do better than services companies because people have to eat before they start thinking about enjoying services. So people are just mainly on survival mode at the moment. They are trying to buy goods and services, but certain businesses will be highly impacted. Education, health, and other services that do not directly impact survival will be highly impacted because people will not have a lot of money to buy these services, and so the profits will overall go down. Before the end of next year, we begin to see this thing.
Sir, lastly, before we go, the report evidently shows that the inflationary pressure affects both individual and businesses. What measures do you think the government can put in place to address this issue?
Yeah, like I said, the inflation we are currently experiencing is a composite type. Normally, the solution to an inflation problem depends on the cause of the inflation. Sometimes it is a demand-oriented inflation. It is a seller's inflation sometimes. Other times it's an imported inflation, especially when you import goods from abroad. But the problem we are facing in Nigeria now is a composite type of inflation. All aspects are being impacted simultaneously. The dollar price has gone high. That is going to affect importation component of inflation. The average price of inputs in the economy has increased. That will affect the supply side of inflation. Aggregate demand is increasing, especially because of population explosion in this country. And then inflation is being bombarded from several levels. So the solution is going to be a composite solution. In the interim, what the government needs to do is to find a way to tighten money supply from the monetary angle, tighten money supply by raising interest rates, which they have currently done, but that's just one side of the problem. The second approach they may use is to put up effort to revamp supply of goods and services. And that requires them to pump heavy money into businesses so that they can guarantee a certain supply of their goods and services. Like I told you, the current inflation rate will dampen supply of goods and services. So what government should be doing is pumping a lot of money into small businesses such that they're able to match up supply to a certain level that is okay with the demand. That is in the short term. And that requires a lot of conditional money transfer, not to buyers, but to sellers. Okay? When supply is able to catch up with demand, the prices may fall down. The current approach of transferring money to the buyers does not solve the problem. It simply exacerbates the problem. So government must use a three-pronged approach. One, do something about the foreign exchange rate that is currently rising high every day. Try to keep it stable between 1,000 and 1,200 for the next 6 months. Then for the supply side, you have to find a way to look at businesses that have highest impact on prices and put money into those businesses to ensure that they generate a lot of supply, especially agricultural products, so that the supply of products will match up with demand. Then when it comes to the demand side, looking at the average Nigerian, we must find a way to hit those that are highly impacted by food prices, especially the vulnerable ones. We are looking at the poorest of Nigerians. And these people reside around the northeastern part of the country. So that's the poorest part of Nigeria. We need to find a way to give them a lot of money to be able to buy goods and services at a certain rate to encourage supply. So that's what we are doing. So it's a three-pronged approach. It's not going to be there's no one solution that will fix the problem. It has to be a multidimensional approach to solving the problem. That is in the short run. But in the medium term, the government should try to find a way to look for alternatives to petrol. The government is talking about setting up gas plants all around the country and helping to get CNG gas alternatives. That policy should be heavily invested in to ensure that people who drive vehicles on the road have alternatives to petrol. That is a medium-term measure. That will be manifested in the next 1 year or 2 years. The long-term approach is to look at critical sectors of the economy that heavily impact on exchange rates and prices. We need to look at the products that we import the most, those products that gob the billions of dollars we spend importing, and find a way to produce those goods. Nigeria has no business importing 60% of what it imports. The government should create an export-driven society by diversifying the economy away from consumption to production. Nigeria is heavily dependent on consumption of goods. An economy that grows at 3% per annum population has no business importing 60% of what it uses. So that's a long-term approach. The government should set up a plan in motion to diversify our dependence on import products and create an export-oriented economy. That is the long-term approach. So in the short term, we need to do what I have just said. In the medium term, we need to try to find a way to ameliorate the problem. And then in the long term, we need to move away from dependence on fossil fuels into dependence on a heavily diversified economy.
Much Destiny Uwobo for your contribution. Really appreciate. Moving on, investors in the bond market oversubscribed the federal government of Nigeria's 30 years bond by over 300% when it was reopened auction on Monday, according to the result from the Debt Management Office. The federal government bond maturing in 2053 recorded a total subscription of 330 billion naira, surpassing the 90 billion naira offered by the Debt Management Office of the country. The 30-year bond had an interest rate of 15.70%, but the range of bid carried an interest rate ranging from 15.70% to 20.0%, with the yielding being 18%. There were 211 bid for the federal government 2053 bond, with 206 being successful. Also, shorter tenor notes such as 2029, 2033, and 2038 maturities were undersubscribed at the same time, which signals a clear preference for a longer dated debt. The federal government 2029 bond performed below expectation, gathering a total of 34.7 billion naira against the 90 billion naira the Debt Management Office planned to raise. A similar scenario played out in the federal government 2033 and 2038 bond that raises 33 billion naira and 47 billion naira respectively, rather than the 90 billion naira planned to be raised. This means both offers were only able to raise 36% and 52% of the amount earmarked to raise. On these notes, this is where we draw the curtain on Business Point. Join us same time on this same station on Global TV channel 276. Till I come your way again, I am Kike Lomo Okeri. Good afternoon.